Hello my lovelies, and welcome to today's video. My name's Alya and I'm so glad you stopped by. We are talking about the very controversial how to choose an ophthalmologist. I feel a little bit sick to my stomach talking about this topic, and I hope I don't slip up and say something that I will later regret. I'm going to try and be as honest and as forthcoming as I can in this video without being too sort of political or judgy or anything like that, because it is a tricky seat that I'm on, because I'm an inside man almost. So I'm going to try and share as much as I can with you guys. And look, I finally set up my new backdrop. Woohoo! So I hope you stick around and hear a little bit about how I would choose an ophthalmologist. I hope I don't get in trouble for today's video. Okay, bit of a interesting one, but I do get asked a lot because now I work with several doctors, like I used to in the beginning, and it's definitely something that I think about and definitely something I noticed. So, okay, I'm going to try my best not to say anything too controversial today, just in case anyone actually watches this and it comes back to me. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I'm going to say exactly what I feel on the matter. So the first thing I have to start with is, a lot of the time, a doctor is a doctor. They're not a social media expert. They're not a blogger. In fact, I would advise most doctors stay the hell away from social media and websites and things like that. You need to say what your qualifications are. You need to make it obvious what your specialties are, perhaps. But at the end of the day, I think that if a doctor goes too crazy on Instagram, they're asking for trouble. So that's my personal opinion. I just don't think that medicine is quite the same as other areas that are being very openly shown on social media. The main reason behind that is that every single person is going to have their own problems or their own anatomy or their own physiology, and you're not going to get the same result for everybody. And that's actually quite okay. That's exactly how it should be. I know it sort of sounds a little bit horrible that we can't always promise fantastic results for everybody, but the reality is not everyone's got fantastic eyes, for example, in my case, to work with. So this is where I've really been thinking. So I've recently started a little bit of work, just a tiny little bit. I haven't really got a proper insight into it just yet, because it's been quite limited experience with a new doctor. And initially my sort of knee-jerk reaction was, I don't want to work with this guy. Horrible to say. He's lovely, he's a talented surgeon, all the things, but the way he practices medicine, and there's nothing wrong with the way he practices his medicine, it just doesn't align with my personal expectations and my personal way of doing things. And sounds really privileged for me to say that, and it is. It's a completely princess thing for me to do and say, because I've worked with a wonderful doctor who is completely aligned with my approach, or I'm completely aligned with her approach, whatever the case may be, and we've worked together for 12 years. So for me to suddenly change after 12 years of doing the exact same thing in the exact same way, and it works wonderfully, to go over to a doctor who copes with a much more difficult client base in terms of their health. He sees people when they're in quite a ways poorer than the ones that I see with my doctor of 12 years. He sees people that have come into a little bit of difficulties with their health, where other doctors couldn't manage it anymore. And as a result, in his defense, he does have to take risks sometimes in order to get any kind of result, or he could do nothing at all, as the previous doctors have done. But the reality is these patients have come to him because the other doctors couldn't do anything more. So it's a bit of a sticky situation. It's a little bit difficult. So I find it really hard to be patient-facing and promise people results when I don't know that they're going to get them, and I don't even know that they should expect them, because of the health of their eyes to begin with. When these very same patients see the doctor that I've been with for 12 years, I very clearly say to them, considering what is going on in your eye, I know what this doctor can do for you. I haven't quite established the confidence with this new doctor to promise anything to the patients. Now, in most places you'll go to, the orthoptist is not the person to actually promise anything. They're there to do a job. They're there to test your eyes. They're there to prepare you as best they can for doctor's examination. So the doctor has the most information that they can muster to do the best job medical job. Okay, all they really are is an assistant to the doctor. And a lot of the time, especially here in Australia, what you'll find is that every time a doctor comes to work, they will work with somebody, not necessarily new, but it may rotate. So, you know, there's clinical standards. So for the whole clinic, the same thing is expected across the board. The doctor will put out at the beginning of their work with the clinic what they want, what tests they like, what drops they like, what all the things, what procedures they might like to do over others or are better at doing that over others. And then you sort of fly with that. And it's not just the orthoptist job, it's also the reception's job, it's also the surgical bookings team's job. It's everyone's sort of job to then support that doctor in providing the best care to that patient. That's how it should work. And that's usually how it works. Occasionally you'll go into a very small clinic. Smaller clinics by default become boutique clinics because it's such a one-on-one experience. You're often seeing the same people every time. You get that continuity, you get that rapport, and therefore you can expect a little bit of that relationship. And that's definitely what happens in our clinic. And that certainly has been my professional experience, to build that rapport with patients. And I did it in big clinics, and I do it in this small clinic because I take that professional care as my personal ethic. It's certainly not expected of me, but it is appreciated with the main doctor I work with, or the main doctors I work with. But doctors are human too, and they have different requirements and different expectations, and they have their own work ethic. And at the end of the day, it's the doctor that takes responsibility for the patient's health and not their assistant. So there's a little bit of that politics. So how do you know who to choose? My very, very first thing would be word of mouth. I think that if somebody else has had a really great patient experience, and we're talking about care, so they've walked in through the door, they've been looked after, they enjoyed the professionalism of the management and the reception staff, they've been looked after and thoroughly reviewed by the orthoptic staff. The orthoptic staff worked independently and with professionalism and with accuracy and with intellect, so they didn't have to go and frantically ask doctor what to do, or doctor didn't have to frantically ask the orthoptist that they need to do things. The orthoptist was independent and intelligent. It shows that they're a team already and they're working in quite good unison, and that is the marker of a good doctor, a doctor that can communicate. Before you even get there, you can find out a few things about how the doctor runs things through their staff. What you'll find is medical reception staff are quite an easy bunch to read. Sorry, ladies, but it's true. If you find that you walk into a medical centre and the staff are frustrated, they're a bit rude, or they're a little bit short on their answers, or they're in any kind of way unfriendly or unforthcoming, you know that the doctor behind the scenes has restricted them, or has frustrated them, or has put pressure on them. The other thing you want is that when you call a clinic and you've been referred to a specific doctor by your GP or your optometrist or whoever it was that referred you to your ophthalmologist, and the clinic, without asking you much at all, straight away puts you onto a different doctor, in my opinion, that's a bit of a red flag, but you've got to investigate further. So if they say, look, we can definitely get you into this doctor, but they're just they're not available, or they're booked up until a certain amount, or they're away on holidays, or there's a real good reason why they're going to offer you a different doctor, sure, fine, that makes perfect sense. Or they'll say to you, what are you calling up for? And it's a specialty that really isn't that doctor's concern, and there's another doctor that's better suited to your particular problem. That's also great. And that's true of everything except cataracts. Cataracts, you want to really press why you have to not be seen by the doctor you were referred to. Everything else, if there is another doctor that's better specialized for your problem, then sure, why not? That makes sense. If you have a family doctor that you know well and trust, they're probably the best person to refer you to a specialist of any description, whether it be a cardiologist or an ophthalmologist or anyone. They have over the years heard back from their patients of their whole patient base experience. So they've sent off numerous people for cataracts or for glaucoma or for retina or for any kind of assessment to that particular doctor and heard good and bad things back. So they're a really great database for patient experience, because when you refer off to a specialist, that specialist must write back to the referrer and tell them what was found, to keep a complete medical history going in one place. Typically the family doctor will do that. So that communication alone can tell a doctor a lot about another doctor. I prefer a communication that's thorough but quick. Some doctors like to dictate 2 pages worth of a report. That's also really nice if they've got the time to do that. It's very time laboring to do such a thing, but some doctors will do it, which is lovely of them, I think, but not necessary. As long as they're reporting back the information necessary to keep a whole medical care for you with your GP, then they're doing all the right things. That GP will then develop a sense of the professionalism and the knowledge that this doctor has, but they'll also see over a period of several months the kind of results their patients are getting by this doctor, and they'll be able to judge it on a medical level. So for example, if a severe diabetic goes to a doctor and gets a certain amount of care and comes back with really decent results, that to a GP is a win, because it's really difficult to treat diabetics that are quite out of control, whether it be their eyes or any other parts of their bodies. So that GP will appreciate the difficulty that this doctor had to overcome to give these results to the patient. But the reality is that when we see a patient, we don't necessarily look too closely at the fact that they're diabetic, or too closely if they've got macular degeneration, or too closely if they've got any other eye disease, glaucoma. We most certainly measure it, treat it, care for it, all the things. But if someone's come to me for cataracts, I'm not going to treat them differently or measure their cataract differently or do anything really for them lesser than someone who's got a perfectly healthy eye and who's come for cataracts. They're going to get the exact same treatment no matter what from me. The only difference is that if they do have a comorbidity, they will also get testing for that comorbidity, and I will want to know as much as possible about the other health concerns of the eye so that there isn't any complexity during surgery. So again, it's about arming up that doctor with as much information and data as possible about this patient so they can make the most intelligent and most educated decision on their approach for that patient. But in terms of the actual patient care, no, every single patient gets the exact same care, at least by our clinic, by me, because I don't see people's health as a reason or as an excuse not to give them the best care that they can possibly have. If they happen to have diabetes, I might speak to them briefly about what they're doing to maintain it, because I feel like sometimes these patients haven't reached out for one reason or another to a dietitian, nutritionist, whatever, or they haven't got a good endocrinologist that they're seeing, and there's often a reason why their diabetes is so out of control. So I'll have a very brief chat to them about, what exactly are you doing for your diabetes? Because I'll see their list of medication. I'll already know that part. Just sharing information. It's also part of getting to know the patient and building that rapport by taking an interest in their diabetic care. Even though I can't really do anything for their diabetes outside of the eye, I can at least take an interest. I can at least guide them in the right direction, and I can at least show them that I actually do care about what they're doing with their diet, because frankly it affects me in their treatment of their eye, but also because that's a way to show that I actually do care. Because if you're just looking at the eye and the eye alone, or if you go to the kidney specialist and looking at the kidney and the kidney alone, or you go to the hematologist and they're looking at the blood work and the blood work alone, you're never going to get good care. You really want someone who's going to at least be interested in the holistic approach. You don't have to have any kind of impact on the holistic approach, but at least be interested and armed with knowledge. So my summary is, speak to somebody who knows this doctor and has had experience with this doctor and what they felt, and ask them to be honest. Sometimes the criticism will be, I had to wait a long time. The doctor was running late. Sometimes that sounds really bad, but actually it shows that the doctor will take as much time as he or she needs with each patient. And if a patient is more difficult than anticipated, they won't kick them out or tell them to come back later. They will actually see it through on the day. Sometimes it means that doctor sees emergencies, which is also an amazing thing, because not all doctors will do that. You'll find out about the professionalism of the staff at the clinic, and that speaks volumes of the relationship between the head doctor at the practice with the management team. You need to ask about the support staff, whether that be a nurse or a orthoptist or an optometrist or whomever, a PA, because that's going to tell you a lot about the doctor's professionalism and their care and the way they actually treat people, including their staff. Some doctors are really nice to their patients but awful to their staff, for example. It's up to you if you want to support someone like that. And results. Now, results is probably the most difficult thing, because a lot of people come to us and say, my friend had surgery and said the next day had perfect vision, and I have to say, look, do you know about your friend's whole medical history? What else was going on with that friend? Why did they have such an instantly good outcome? And how does that compare to you and your health? A lot of my job is to moderate expectations. Unfortunately, not everyone's going to have an amazing result the next day, no matter what the procedure, because everybody takes a different amount of time to heal and to recover, and they have other things going on as well, and that all needs to be taken into some grand consideration. If these people are really taking a lot of pride and care and are very thorough in their work, then you can trust them. It's as simple as that. In places like Melbourne, where there is an ophthalmology clinic probably 3 to a kilometre sometimes in some areas, and the competition is fierce, if someone is being lackluster in their care, then that's on them. There's a guy down the street that's going to do a better job. It's as simple as that. So I'm not encouraging doctor shopping. I think that's an awful thing to do. But if you've left feeling like you haven't had the best care, it's okay to go out there and compare the pair. You should, however, remember that if the first doctor left you feeling better, don't allow yourself to be bullied and pressured and sold into anything that you don't want to commit to. You can always tell the doctor, I need to think about it. Can I call you tomorrow? There is nothing wrong with that. Some patients do get bullied into surgery, and that's a real concern that happens around here, again, because the market is very saturated. Okay, my lovelies, I chose a very controversial topic today, and I know I tippy-toed around a few things because I just didn't want to say anything that will come across not quite how I mean it. I adore the people I work with. I have a lot of respect for all the doctors I work with and have ever worked with. There's probably one in all my years that I just flat out went, never going there again, and we'll make sure that, oh no, sorry, probably 2, that I said that, no way, Jose, that's done. But overall, it's been a really fabulous and positive experience. I just was very lucky to find somebody who I'm on the same wavelength with, and that's not always a possibility. But if you can at least, as an orthoptist, I feel that if I can at least promise patients that the best care is going to be taken for them, then I can work with that person. So that has been my kind of, from an orthoptist point of view. From a patient point of view, you do really need to feel confident. You do need to trust the doctor that you're working with, and a lot of the time the same practice can offer you somebody else if you didn't quite have a good relationship with the doctor that you met, if the personalities just didn't go. And that happens a lot within any clinic. So something to consider. You don't have to doctor shop out there. You can just say, hey, didn't really like that guy. Can you offer me something else? And they often will. And at least you've already had all the testing done and you don't have to go through all that again. If you like this video and you want to see more about eyes and about tickles and about makeup and about all the crazy things in my life, please do subscribe and definitely check out my Instagram. There's lots of crazy things going on there and lots of cute pictures as always. So definitely follow me on Instagram as well. Wherever you are around the world, my lovelies, I hope you're taking care of yourselves, you're doing well, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.